Hello, darlings. I'm really sorry that I ended abruptly there. My phone, I guess sometimes when it's just kind of too hot and too humid, it will just stop. So I don't know where it went, but I know that I'm still talking, probably bawling my eyes out to myself, and I didn't know that the video had done. But my point was, today is National Narcissistic Abuse Day. Narcissistic Abuse Day. Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. There you go. That's a tongue twister. Say that 10 times fast. Bastard narcissists would have to make it more difficult than needs to be to have something to be aware of their shit. But they're just everywhere. They are everywhere. And you know what? You can be a narcissist that makes the best of your narcissism. Okay? We know that Lardo always loves to talk about Sex in the City like they're real people. I mean, Mr. Big was a huge narcissist. Didn't want children. Was extremely successful in his business. Had Carrie as his wife ultimately. But they lived separately because of his narcissism. Many, many successful people are narcissists. One could argue that narcissists are a result of evolution, and narcissists go to the top because they're not bothered by things like normal human emotion, and they know how to manipulate people's minds without getting their own hands dirty. Like I say, my daughter's boyfriend who can't keep a fucking job, and Charlie Manson. You know, Mr. Big. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I did everything under the sun to keep my daughter away from the narcissists in my family and my husband's family, because when I first got married to my husband, now my daughter's father, we went to marital counseling because he's an asshole. He seems super nice, and then just flipped once we got married. And the marriage counselor had me come in separate. She said, look, he's a raging, malignant narcissist. You need to get a plan, and you need to get the hell out. You need to run. There are places you can go underground where you can change your name, and this man will never find you. You will have no chance with this man. He's a narcissist. I'm like, what? What's a narcissist? I had no idea. And so, like 21 years ago, there wasn't much information about them. I didn't really know what a narcissist was. And there was this one book, kind of like not a fully published one. It was kind of a, I don't know, I guess we would call it an op-ed. Very trendy term right now with Amber Heard. But it was Sam Vankin who wrote this, and he himself is a self-proclaimed narcissist, a malignant narcissist, and he wrote this thing about how he thinks and what he does and all of this stuff, and it was enough for me to start unfucking my husband's brain. But I noticed that he was abusive to me after he spoke with his mother. All of our farts happened after he talked to his mother. There's nothing more true than that. All of our fights started after he would speak with his mother, and the fights would get more and more intense. And so more marital counseling, and they said you have to cut his mother out because he responds in the way that he does because she is narc mother. So the narc mother has 3 sons. There have been 9 divorces. Okay, when I came along, I'm wife 3 for him. All of the women would leave the men, her sons, within 45 to 60 days after they said I do. They acted really super nice until they get married, and then they show that they're asshole selves, right? So in order for me to keep my marriage, and I kept it for 21 years and counting right now, we had to keep his mother very far away. And my kids didn't want anything to do with her anyway. When she came out, they could tell that she was very cold and unfriendly. We let her visit the kids. Very, very rarely and very well supervised, and the kids wanted nothing to do with her. Nothing. They were terrified of her. And so, my husband and I never took a vacation. We never went out on dates. We never did anything that anybody with, grandparents that could fly into town could do. We went without. We've not taken a vacation because we did not want to leave the kids with Narc Granny, right? So, even at Christmas, after she sends her gifts, because the typical Narc will be horrible through the year, you won't want to talk to her at all, and then October comes around and it starts, I want your Christmas list, what would you like? And there were times we didn't have money, so her gifts were the only things that went to the kids, and save the Christmas, and we would make the kids say thank you to her. And even up until last year, my daughter's 18 years old, she would throw a fit. They would all throw a fit. They didn't even want to say 2 words to Grandma Narc, right? So, after everything happened, I don't want to say too much because I have restricted the other videos. I do have people that troll me and they would love to get their hands on all the information of what's happened. But y'all are my followers and I know that you know what I'm talking about. So after what happened with my daughter 6 weeks ago, when she nearly blinded me with her attack that he put her up to, she's not called, texted, anything in 6 weeks. My birthday came and went. Mother's Day came and went. Any normal abuser would call after they severely injured a person. No, like I say, I had never had an argument with my own daughter. Up to 2 hours prior to what she did, she had texted me, a little joke. We had jokes throughout the day. Every day we'd text and email back 6 times a day minimum. Of course, when she wasn't around him. Okay? So he had been setting her up to run away with him, and basically if anybody tried to stop her from it, their plan was to leave by force, and she did. So anyway, imagine my surprise when my husband made his weekly call to Narc Mommy, because we have to have things very limited, very, very limited. Narc Mommy calls are on a Sunday morning. Don't last more than 15 minutes. Everything's fine. Yes. Yep. Okay. He gets ready to get off the phone, and she trapped him into saying everything's fine. And he's like, she goes, I think there's something you haven't told me. He's like, what? You haven't told me that your own daughter isn't even welcome in her own house anymore. You are not letting your daughter in your house. And he's like, what? So yeah, apparently my daughter, who has never said 2 words to her Narc grandma, decided to call up Grandma and tell her all of the story, but twisted in the way that her narcissistic boyfriend has had it twisted. And it makes no sense. She did tell my husband that my daughter was not talking on her own. She could hear him telling her what to say. Now, this is dangerous on so many levels and aggravates my PTSD to no end, because now that Narc Mama has this in her hands, because Narc boyfriend made my dumbass puppet of a daughter do this, Narc Mommy is going to rub it in to my husband every fucking week. And now, guess what happens to me? I have to deal with my husband with his narcissism on high alert. So my life just got a little bit worse than it already is. I didn't think that my daughter could turn the knife harder than she did. A lot of things are going on with that, because one of the problems I had was Narc Mama beat all of her sons. She had such control over them that she would make them go outside on the farm and go and pick a log for her to beat them with. They were under that much of control that she would say, go get a log. Because she'd broken so many household utensils on them that she needed logs to beat them. And I refused. I've never hit any of my kids. Like I say, I'm not saying the number of, I have a lot of kids. Never hit any of them. I've been a mom for going on 34 years. And I've never hit any of my kids. I've never had to ground my kids. Laughter was always part of our home. I've always communicated what the expectations were with my kids, and they had no problem with it. I had no problems with my kids. I really haven't, honest to God. And so when my husband went through this with the marriage counseling, he confronted her about the way that she physically abused him. And she said, I'm putting all these ideas in his head and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. And I got on the phone. I was like, yeah, you abused him. You controlled him. So if he fundamentally hates women and he turns into a raging narcissist after you. And she's like, why won't you hit your children? How do you expect them to be disciplined? If you don't hit them, how are they going to get disciplined? I was like, I'm not going to hit my kids. And she goes, as long as you close the curtains, what's the problem? So make sure no one sees you doing it. So now we have to deal with this, that I challenged her parenting. I kept my husband and my kids away from her. And now that this little shit Charlie Manson ass boyfriend of hers that has her under control and had her attack her own mother, now she's going to say, I told you you should have taught those kids discipline. I told you that what I did was the right way. How dare you question my parenting? None of my children raised a hand to me. None of my children beat the shit out of me. Do you see what I'm going to go through? It's awful. It's absolutely awful. The only thing that makes sense is that the grandmother holds the purse strings to the inheritance. And with narcs, it's all about the money. And so on some level, she thinks, or he must think, that they're going to be able to get money from her. And they're going to have another thing coming because she's not going to give it to him. She doesn't. She's no. So that's all they're going to use her for. But these games they're playing are costing me. I had to go no contact. My daughter's an adult. She turned 18 in in October. And, she's graduating this week. It should be the most happy week of my life. But, her twin brother graduates also, so I should be celebrating my girl and boy twin graduating this week. And instead, I have this going on where I have to have a restraining order against my own daughter. And graduation's going to be tricky. This is the kind of shit that my daughter has done because little shit boyfriend wanted her to move out with him. And apparently they're living with his father, the one that he accused of abusing him so severely that caused a divorce and caused all kinds of things. Like I say, he's been put in the nut bin countless times. He's on 4 different psych meds. She had him quit them all. Through reading through the computer messages, she had him quit all of the medications. In order for her to agree to run off with him, she made him agree that she would be his therapist and no more of his psych drugs. That he's not to go to counseling and no more psych drugs. So we have this little unmedicated bastard taking control of my house, and there's nothing I can fucking do. There's nothing I can do. People don't understand the depth that narcissists get away with they're just sick. They're maniacal. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to deal with narcissists. I don't know that anybody knows how to deal with narcissists. It takes a very specialized therapist to even understand what narcissistic abuse is. Because, this channel, and you guys all know, we're watching Lardo, literally the biggest female narcissist on the planet. I mean, Amber Heard is the biggest, most well-known narcissist on the planet. Lardo's the biggest, literally. I mean, the only person who can possibly know what I'm feeling is Carol. And you know it. I mean, even the other night when she was on, I guess we were reviewing one of the videos with Jules, right? And she was talking to somebody in the chat. She's like, I know, and can you believe what my mom did to me? And here she is, yeah, your mommy finally had enough. I mean, I can't imagine what Carol's done. And I mean, looking at Lardo, it makes me fear the future. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how much I can deal with. I don't know that there's a therapist who would understand. A therapist would tell me to do exactly what I'm doing, is to have went complete, oh my God, big wreck there. A therapist would tell me to go complete no contact, as I have. And the restraining order is for my home and to protect the other kids in my home. My husband is not on the restraining order, so that is open for communication. But what am I supposed to do? You go gray rock, and then they go. You know how Lardo sits there and says, don't ever tell me anything because I'll tell everything when you fuck me over and we're not friends. Yeah, look what my daughter just did. My daughter knows how painful the things that my mother-in-law has done to me have been. And to call her and tell her the twisted version of what happened, it's just disgusting. My daughter is very mad that I put a restraining order on her. Well, when you go to school the next day and you brag to everybody about how you beat up your dad's wife, when the day before you beat me up, you went through my closet and took everything with tags and everything with the brand, and took 3 hours going through my closet and took everything that I thought was nice. Yeah. That's what a terrible mom I am. But it's all about money to the narcs. It's all about what you can give them. And you never know when you're a pawn in their game. A narcissist sees the whole world as their playing field. They see courts as kangaroo court. I mean, they come to life in court, and they turn it into a kangaroo court because who can see what is the truth? Like I say, Amber Heard, we all saw Amber Heard sitting up there with that little look on her face and sitting there with the little braids and looking like, little Harvard graduate. And you listen to what she's saying to Johnny and just the sick shit. And here's my thing also, is like, why did Amber need a private nurse? Did you guys see that? Did you guys catch on to that? And the one time when she was spazzing out so much, there was actually a doctor there. And she was asking the doctor what she could give her to settle her down. And, she was like, can I go ahead and give her, 100 Seroquel? And he's like, give her like 2,000 milligrams, And they're like, yes, okay, I'm authorizing 100. Can I give 200? They were doing that. And Amber's her wine bill, the financial guy came up for Johnny Depp and talked about, she went through like $15,000 worth of fucking wine a month. So they were giving her all these psych drugs and that. Who does that remind you of, right? So, I don't know. There's very few books about how to deal with a narcissist. It's just, like I've explained, my grandmother's a narcissist. My mother's a dumb shit. You know, she just dumb as a rock. More histrionic and just drama and just a little whiny baby and an idiot. I've been on my own since I was between 12 and 14, and by the time I was 14 I went through 14 foster homes. So I've been affected by narcissists all my life, and that's the thing, is that I just don't. They say that, you know, I guess I'm an empath, and empaths are attracted to narcissists like moths to a flame. So, like I say, I can't imagine being Carol and dealing with this shit for 56 years. I mean, she stayed for Burke. She stayed for Burke to be sure that Burke wouldn't be taken away from her, because if she had not been there for Burke, the system would have taken Burke. Now, you could argue that Goonie would have taken Burke out of the country and raised him in Turkey with his family. Lardo alienated Goonie because that was her biggest fear. She told everybody that Goonie couldn't be a part of her son's life because he was going to kidnap him and take him out of the country. So, what would make Goonie do that? Well, I mean, I say Carol would understand how I feel. Goonie understands how I feel. But you can't tell somebody what the narcissist has done, because it wouldn't make any sense. I could come up to somebody and be so upset and bawling my eyes out like I was the other day. And they're like, what's wrong? Oh, my daughter called her grandmother. Okay, so your daughter called her grandmother. What? How wonderful. No, you don't understand. She called her grandmother. Yeah, and? You know what I mean? People don't understand how low they'll go and how deep they'll cut. I think that, like I say, I think that our country is starting to recognize it, and I think that Johnny Depp, it might be our hero. That what people have now seen basically on TV, it's been the highest rating show, you know. And I mean, in any poll I've seen about do you believe that Johnny is the victim, you know, blah blah blah, people, 94% people are on Johnny's side. 97% of the people agree with the verdict today. It's a taboo subject to say that a man can be a victim of domestic violence. It's a taboo subject to say that a man can be a victim of emotional abuse. Well, we saw that they can, because this was a great example, because each of them has so much money that you would think that they would be able to protect themselves, but you can't, because you got mental illness. And how do you help a narcissist? They have the equivalent of the mirror house. You know, when you go to the carnival and you go through the house of mirrors, that's what their brain is like. Their brain is like some weird ass house of mirrors. Nothing is what it seems. They sit there and they just find a little weak spot. My daughter's boyfriend first separated my daughter from her own twin. Her own twin. They shared a womb together. They were so close. There was never a closer set of twins. But he sat there and he eroded their relationship to then they were like getting in screaming matches, and I was like, knock it off. What are you doing? And boy twin just totally stayed away from her and was trying to tell me there's something wrong with her. I'm like, oh yeah, PMS, whatever, you know. I didn't listen. Then her next oldest brother started all this weird shit. There've never been siblings fighting in my house, ever. Then me. So he went for the ones closest to her and eroded each relationship. And he did it by, the things that I'm reading, because we have the computer and we can still see some things. We're going to have it all forensically downloaded and get all of the information from the phone that we have and the computer, to see really how it started and what exactly the plan was, etc., etc. But it just simply was, he just started being like, your mom loves your twin more. Your mom loves your twin more. Yeah, she loves him more. She wouldn't have done that. Oh yeah, your mom loves your brother more. Oh yeah, your mom wouldn't have done that if she actually loved you. She loves him more. She loves him more. Yeah. Well, can you imagine why? What a shitty mom to love one child more than the other. It was just that. And so I was just being accused of not loving one child enough in one day. And that's the basis of how he eroded it. And then it just playing on insecurities of not being loved as much as the other. Just crazy shit. Crazy shit. There's nothing that they can say that I've done other than accusing me of not loving one. And working on the insecurity to the point where, oh yeah, oh okay, she doesn't love me as much, therefore she's abusive. And as I said, we started having her unload the dishwasher, and so she'd be out and I'd be like, okay, you need to come home, or you can't go out until you've unloaded the dishwasher, loaded the dishwasher. She got $40 every 2 weeks to unload and load the dishwasher because she had 5 fucking meals a day. Her food bill was $500 a week for us, a week. She spared no expense for herself and what she needed, and she made the biggest messes in the kitchen, so it was for her to do the dishes. And because I would have her do the dishes, that was what they considered abuse. And that I was exploiting her and using her as a quote-unquote chore monkey. I still did all of her laundry, folded it all, everything. The only thing she had to do was put her clothes in her drawers. That's it. At 18 and a half. She'd be in bed on the computer and I'd be, cleaning up her room and cleaning her bathroom and everything else. Because we started having her do the dishwasher a few months prior. That's the basis of abuse. That's what this little shit calls abuse. We see the same thing in Lardo. Do you think that Lardo ever had to do chores? No, because they were ladies who lunched. Carol didn't cook. She took Lardo out. I saw a gem today, and I sent it over to Jules, and I hope that she'll review it. It's the one where Lardo quit her seasonal part-time job and went off on Jennifer. Jennifer came and she did some really good memes on her. But you see Lardo going off. That her back hurt, so she couldn't work this job, and they were making her stand and blah 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 blah. And and she's going to complain to the manager because the one who was in charge of her just didn't treat her right. And that one in charge of her, she makes 6 figures, it's retail. Fuck off. Lardo was trying to say that she is 2 positions away from making a 6-figure income in this job, retail, where there are several locations, where she was a greeter. Was she a greeter at fucking Walmart and thinks that the manager above that one is making a 6-figure salary? And Lardo was going on and on and on about how she couldn't work with her pain, and she's going to open an Etsy store because she doesn't want to be exposed to getting COVID anyway. But then she was saying how, so what if you get COVID? So what, it's just a cold? Well, we saw what just happened when she had a COVID scare, just a cold. But anyway, she's going on, and then it comes out the bitch was only working 8 hours a week. She could not do her 8-hour-a-week job for 14 weeks, seasonal. And so she was complaining, and this girl Jennifer goes, I still work with 4 herniated discs and you can't because you have back pain. How pathetic. And Lordo went full on trigger bath. Trigger bath was on. Trigger bath was full on. And trigger bath just went off. And so I sent it to Jules, and I hope she'll review it because it's a gem. It's a good one to look back on. But it just shows how twisted ass their abuse is. They can't lift a finger. They can't work. They can't be tasked to do anything, or it's some kind of a major inconvenience. I don't know how they think the rest of us survive. Do you know how many damn chores I did when I was 18? Not to mention I had a fucking 2-year-old by that time. My own house. Work full-time in my own house and my child. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you undo narcissism. Don't know. But the other one I just sent Jules is the one about how she got fat again. It's called I Got Fat Again, and I had to quit. So those two I sent over to Jules, and I can't wait for her to go through them. And then I will review what Jules reviewed to review them. So, thank you all for your unending support, and thank you for letting me vent on you guys. I know you guys all have experience with narcissists, and you understand my pain, and I can't thank you enough for being there and the love that you give me. I appreciate it so much, so much. Oh, and Melody asked if Lardo's first husband was black, and no, both of her husbands were white. Black men have class. They wouldn't marry that piece of shit. She was bragging about how she loves black men because she loves them to slap her face with their dicks. Yeah. And then when she was whining about how she, you know, she has to get a job. If she could be if she could do pornography, she would. I mean, there's a lot of weird porn. I mean, you think that Google prolapse porn, okay? I mean, there's something for everybody. Maybe don't Google prolapse porn. But anyway, there's something for everybody. So you think Lardo? No. Then you're like, no. And then her mustache was showing really bad in this one where she just did a couple days ago because she's moved. So she's got the freaking 5 o'clock shadow and the freaking Hitler mustache. And it's funny because in one of the videos I just sent over for Jules to review, her mustache is really bad, and someone said something about it, and she gets all close to the screen. She's like, these are freckles. It's a very sensitive subject. These are freckles. It's a very unfortunate place to have freckles. Well, last I checked, I didn't know that freckles were long strands of black hair in the form of a frickin' mustache. So anyway, let's hope she finds a razor, or maybe not. All right, thanks for listening, and protect yourself from narcissists at all costs. They're everywhere, under every fucking rock. So anyway, have a good rest of the week. I shall talk at y'all later. Thanks again for all the love. Bye-bye.